There are some very empty shelves behind me, and that is because it is time for a book haul. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is a end of year book haul. So on the channel about, I think it was August, I did a first half of the year book haul where I went through all the books I purchased from January through to about June, July, and now I have the end of year book haul. So I have been in a different house, as most of you already know. We are moving to Perth in 3 weeks' time. At the time of filming, we've got 3 weeks to go. So I thought I would show you everything that I've accumulated over the second half of the year. And as I'm looking at it and looking at these shelves, there's more than I anticipated that has been acquired over the last few months. But there we go. Before we jump into the haul today, make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord, should you want to come along for the ride. Now, we have such an assortment of different books here. We've got a bunch that I've ordered from the Broken Binding. We've got just some random sort of horror, some things that as I was going to bookshops, I thought that looks interesting, or I really wanted to read that series for a while. I might pick up, one or two books from it. And I've got some stuff that authors have sent me and a handful of indie books that I've gone ahead and picked up, and even some birthday presents in there, which is really cool. So what we'll do is we'll split the video today with the trad pub, which is, I'm ashamed to say, the bigger of the two piles, and then the indie pub. Don't worry, I am planning on doing a big book buy when I get to Perth, which will be mainly indie stuff that I have enjoyed over this year, and my book buying habits will likely change next year with some of the changes that are happening, but you can look out for that in the 2024 goals video. So let's jump into this book haul because, like I said, there is more books than I thought to get through. These are in no particular order, and I will let you know if the author has sent them to me because there are a few mixed in here, and I'm very grateful, so I do want to give them their shout outs. In no particular order, I have Boys in the Valley. This is a horror novel which comes highly recommended. I actually prefer the, I think it's the US cover. I'm not sure which one this is, but it was like 3 times the price. So I haven't read a whole lot of horror. Horror is a genre that I quite enjoy, but I don't read it a lot, and I've heard good things about this one, so I picked it up when I saw it in a bookstore. The next one I picked up was an absolute cover buy, and this is Scorched Grace by Margot Duhay. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't. This lighting does not do this cover justice. It's like a church glass mosaic background, and it's absolutely beautiful. This is actually a contemporary. I think it's a thriller. I'm not sure, but the blurb was so much fun, and it's got some testimonials from like Karen Slaughter, who does write thrillers that I quite enjoy. I haven't read a whole lot of thrillers recently, but something about this just called to me. So Sister Holiday is more faithful than most, but she's no saint. So I picked it up, looking forward to getting to it at some point. Definitely was like a mood pickup, so maybe it'll be a mood read, which I don't really do. We'll see. The next one was gifted to me by the lovely Esme for my birthday, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I've not read this one yet. It is a beast, but I've heard lots of good things. I think she really enjoyed it when she read it. I think we're going to do it as a buddy read, but I am so slow. I did not get to it. I apologize. But I'm looking forward to this one. My father-in-law has already borrowed it and really enjoyed it, so that bodes well. The next one is a series continuation, and ironically being unhauled in a couple of weeks' time before we go, and that is Lords of the Bow by Con Eagledon. This is book 2 of the Conqueror series, which is the story of the Khan dynasty. I just read book 1, Wolf on the Plains, or Birth of an Empire, depending on where you're from. Really enjoyed it on audio, and then have therefore decided to continue the series on audio, so I will be getting rid of the physical books, which is part of my book buying habits that are happening in the new year. If I want to consume a series on audio, then I'll consume a series on audio. I don't necessarily need to own the physical copies as well, because there is limited book space, people, for beautiful indie fantasy books. The next one I picked up, and these two are my most recent purchases. The first one is The Obsidian Tower. This is by Melissa Carso. Now, I have no idea what this book is about. I don't. But every time I've gone into a bookshop, I pick it up. I've read the blurb a number of times. Don't ask me what it is. I can't remember. And I always think, I want to read this series. And then the last time I was in the bookshop, I picked it up again, and Rachel was like, please just buy it. you pick this up every time. So I went ahead and I purchased it. So I now own a copy of the Obsidian Tower. If anyone's read that series, let me know what you think. I also picked up a copy of The Hexologists by Josiah Bancroft. Nice little short one from Josiah Bancroft there. I really liked the Books of Babel, the Senlin Ascends series, and I had a really good time with it. I did not hate book 4 as much as a lot of people did. I thought it was fine. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the strongest entry in the series, sure, but I had a really good time with it. And I saw this on a whim and thought it looks pretty. I'm definitely going to read it. Josiah Bancroft is an auto-buy author for me after that series, so I want to see what quirky stuff they come up with. Next up, from the same bookshops, so these and the next two all came from the same bookshop that I found in Brisbane. I didn't know we had specialty bookshops anymore, but since knowing we did, I would rather give them my money than, someone like, I don't know, Dimmicks, who just does, trad pub and put their prices down because they can. I'd rather pay a couple dollars more and support something small. So I got Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. I have not started my Mark Lawrence journey. I'm not really sure where to start my Mark Lawrence journey, but I hear this is fairly dark. I desperately want to read some Mark Lawrence, but it keeps getting shafted off my TBR. So if you know where to start, let me know. I think I own all of. I want to say the Book of the Ancestor. I don't know if that's right, but the one that starts with Red Sister. I have all of those. This is another series that has been on my radar for a long time, starting with Retribution Falls by Kris Wooding. I think this is called The Tales of Kitty J for the series. It's 4 books, I believe. It's on a lot of people's underrated lists, and it's a bit steampunk, a bit fantasy, and I've wanted to read it for a long time. So I picked up the first book. You'll notice that I do pick up a lot of book ones. I'm trying to be better at not just buying whole series, just in case I don't vibe with the books and I've got to get rid of a whole series. I'm learning, people. I'm learning. The next one I picked up was another horror, and I picked this up because it was on sale. It's very expensive to get it to Australia, and it went down $10. So I was like, you know what? It's time to get it. That is Mary by Nat Cassidy. This cover is so beautiful in person because it's painted. It's a painting. It's not just a photo, which I initially thought it was a photo, and I liked it then. Nat Cassidy is an author, a horror author, which is sort of up and coming. I hear the name a lot nowadays, and I'm really looking forward to going into some of their work. I cannot wait to read Mary. The people I know who have read Mary have really enjoyed it, so I'm hoping that I also do. The next pile that we have are the beautiful editions that I have bought myself from the Broken Binding. The first book is an author that I don't necessarily know is going to work for me, but the sprayed edges on this book were like, you know what? It is my birthday, and I will be purchasing this beautiful book for a birthday present, and that is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This is the omnibus edition, and this camera is not going to pick it up, but far out, is that not some of the most beautiful sprayed edge artwork you've ever seen? So I picked up the omnibus. I believe this is the 3 books in one. Broken Binding comes signed, which is always kind of cool. I've got the Priory of the Orange Tree to read back home in Perth whenever we get there, but I could not pass up that artwork. I put out a video a little while ago where I was talking about Kris's bookish quirks and saying I don't really care about special editions and artwork, and the thing is, the Broken Binding has ruined that. I now am a sucker for some really beautiful sprayed edges. I don't have to own all of them, but I definitely would like a shelf of books that face outwards because the spines are so, well, the sprayed edges are so lovely. The next one I picked up from the Broken Binding, and one I unhauled She Who Became the Sun a little while ago. And the reason for that is I was waiting for special editions. I had a feeling these would be picked up somewhere because they were beautiful. A lot of people didn't love this book because no one's in it is likable. That's true. No one in it is likable, but I really enjoyed it. I learnt Mandarin for 8 years. I can still speak a little bit of Mandarin. And I did Asian studies as a minor in university when I went. So there's a lot of nostalgia for me in this book. A lot of the language, a lot of the little quips that they use in the book really felt nostalgic to me, and I loved it for that reason, which is probably not a reason that a lot of people love it for, but it came as the duology with He Who Drowned the World as well. So I picked these 2 up. They are beautiful, and they have beautiful spines which sit out on the shelf. The next one I picked up is a book I've been curious about since I learnt about it, and that is Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. Beautiful sprayed edge. These are just gorgeous. Very simple in design. So I think the hardback here is just a black hardback, yeah. And they come signed. I am person 746 to get this one, but it was one of those books that I kept looking at on the Broken Binding website, and occasionally if I have a little bit of extra cash, I will just go and look at the Broken Binding website and see what's still available, and this happened to be. So I picked it up. And then one of my favorite authors of all time, R.J. Barker, had Gods of the Weirdwood on there, so I picked that one up as well. Again, signed and very, very beautiful. 754 for this one. I haven't read this one yet. I don't know when I'm going to slot it in. I think book 2 is coming out next year. I'm not 100% sure. Do not quote me on that. But when the book 2 is out, potentially, I will tackle this one because I tend to like to read R.J. Barker month to month to month. So those are the traditionally published books that I have here. I think Sons of Darkness is now traditionally published by Galans. Don't quote me on that because I don't actually know. Don't run with it and tell people that I'm an idiot. I already know. The next pile I have is over here, and I've got to go and find, pick it up and put it somewhere. Okay, so I've just shuffled my piles a little bit. So the next 4 are ones that have actually been sent to me by the author, and whenever this happens, as a very small booktuber and a very small time reviewer, it's so surreal that an author has spent their money and put their effort into sending you a book. I'm a huge believer in the e-review copy and the e-arc because I know it's cheaper for the author to do that rather than sending a physical copy. But I will say there is something so magical as a small reviewer in receiving these physical books, and it's just every time it's just so wonderful. The first one that I have here is Vevan's Song. Now, this one holds a special place in my heart, as does the author. Jonathan Neves Meyers reached out to me late 2021, no, 2022, what year are we in, and asked if I would review the book coming out in 2023. And I was apparently the first person who said yes. And he told me a little bit about the behind the scenes of the book and why it was written. And it was so beautiful. And Jonathan is such a humble and wonderful human being. And it really just holds a special place in my heart. So this one is signed. It came with a little message when he sent me a copy for the small libraries. He said, by the way, one of those is signed to you, so don't send both of them out because that would be awkward. So I picked that up. Very, very grateful. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for sending that one my way. And the same thing goes for Petition by Delilah One. So she was so lovely and she sent in a few copies for the small libraries. And she said, hey, one of those are for you. So that's signed to you. Don't send that out. And it just says sort of thank you for all that you do for the indie community. And it's so humbling to get those messages. I've read this one recently and I really enjoyed it. And I think more people need to pick it up. If you're into giving that new adult sort of story with a lot of adult themes a go, I think this is very good. And again, super thankful. Thank you so much. The next one I have is Kingslayer by Mr. S.K. Putt, or Stu, as you might have seen him. He's just been on the channel. What a legend. Stu is such a cool guy, just down to earth, so passionate about Norse-inspired stories. He always sends me messages on Instagram if he comes across a new one, or ask me to recommend them if I come across them. And he's just such a cool guy. So my wife, Rachel, was lucky enough to be the proofreader on this one, and he sent us a copy. So this is so cool. Again, signed with a message there to Rachel and I, but I have stolen the book for myself, which no one is surprised at. And the last one I have here sent by the author is The Blinding Power by Cassidy Faylene. This is one of the most beautiful covers I think I've seen this year. It's absolutely stunning. The first book of this series, The Awakening Fire, which was in my August book haul whenever I did it, surprised me a lot. This is, I think, YA/new adult, and it was really dark and so enjoyable. Like, I'm learning now to unlatch that part of my brain that says I don't want to read YA, because there are some fantastic YA out there with some really important themes, and The Awakening Fire for me was super enjoyable. I've not gotten to this one yet, but I will sometime soon. It is on the TBR, I think January. Don't quote me on that. Again, we'll find out my January TBR when I film that later this weekend. But I am really looking forward to getting to the second installment, and so grateful that that's been sent my way. So thank you, Cassidy. The next one that's been sent my way is a trilogy, and these are hefty. These need to come with me to Perth in the car because they're so heavy. They don't go in the box that we're shipping over. And this is the Songs of Chaos series, or what is currently out, by Michael R. Miller, starting with Ascendant, moving on to Unbound, and the last one, Defiant. These are so incredible. These naked hardbacks are so beautiful. These have been very kindly gifted to me from the author. I have small hands, so they don't all fit in one hand. But absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Michael R. Miller, and to your PR, Stacey, who helped to organize that. The next one I picked up is a book. I reached out to this author on a whim when I saw that she was asking for ARC readers over on Facebook, and I thought, that sounds incredible. And it's one of the most incredible connections that I've made this year, and I'm talking about Jessica A. McMinn and The Ruptured Sky. This book is so much fun. I think this year has been the year of just fun fantasy romps for the sake of fantasy, and just having a good time with it and exploring some of those themes that, you know, are so important, but also still having fun with it. And The Ruptured Sky definitely did that for me. The next one I have is a historical fantasy, which I really enjoyed. Bit of a change of pace for me and what I would normally read, but I do like historical fiction. I am quite intrigued with history, but it never sticks in my brain, so having it in a fictionalized way is beneficial for me. And so I've got book 1 and book 2 from C.L. Jarvis. This is The Doctrines of Fire, book 1, and The Treatise of Air, book 2, and these are historical fantasies set in the 1800s, and they use real people from those time frames and sort of just plays on a lot of the research that was being done throughout that time, and they're really enjoyable. I had a chat to Claire earlier this year, and I really enjoyed Doctrines, and I'm looking forward to getting to Treaties. The next one I have is Seeds of War by João F. Silva. Again, super ballsy debut, really fun fantasy. What I loved most about this book when I read it is that it really roots for the underdog. This is something I've now read twice. It is very rereadable, and I'm looking forward to what João Silva does next, and that cover is really cool. This next one was also a gift from Esme. That is the Wick Wire Watch. I have heard nothing but incredible things about this book. There are so many people telling me to read this. I will at some point. Isn't it meant to be a 7-book series? I'm sure I will get to it before all 7 books are out, we hope. And the last 2 I picked up on a whim. They must have been getting rid of stock out of the Amazon warehouse, and I happened to come across it when both of these books happened to be like $10 each. I've wanted to read these forever. One of these covers is maybe one of my favorite covers that came out of 2022 that I saw, and I have no excuse not to read them now because I own these beautiful hardcover editions, and I'm talking about The Skin and The Pact by J.E. Hannaford. These are so incredible. Like I said, my camera's not going to do these justice. This cover for The Pact may be one of my favorite fantasy covers I've ever seen, but certainly the one that I saw last year, and I was just blown away. And the fact that I now own these hardcovers, I'm very grateful to own these. So those are the books that I've acquired over the second half of 2023. I've not done the ebooks because if I did the ebooks, we would be here for probably years. Ever since I started doing the indie releases from reading Rob's list, I probably pick up 4 to 5 ebooks per month, and that's not just ones. That's just off that list. Not ones that get recommended to me, not ones I find on social media and I pick up. So those are the books. Let me know what you're excited for me to pick up. Is there something you think I should prioritize? Let me know in the comments below. If you like the content, give it one of those, and if you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.